Good evening, and welcome to Doctorpiece Theater. My name is Dr. Dennis Business. And tonight, we will continue our dive into the second short story contained within the pages of the Bachman books, The Long Walk. When we last left Ray Garretty and our other friends on the road, they were just approaching the town of Caribou. They had lost two people, Traven and Huck. One to a really bad cut that wouldn't stop bleeding, and the other to diarrhea. You wouldn't think the cut on the leg would get a guy to buy his ticket early, but I think you can figure out that diarrhea sure as shit would. So chapter 4 begins everyone was disappointed with Caribou. It was just like Limestone. The crowds were bigger, but otherwise, it was just another mill and pulp and service town with a scattering of stores and gas stations. One shopping center that was having, according to the signs plastered everywhere, our annual walk-in for values sale. And a park with a war memorial in it. A small, evil-sounding high school band struck up the national anthem. Then, a medley of Sousa marches. And then, with taste so bad, it was almost grisly, marching to Pretoria. The same woman who had made a fuss at the crossroads so far back turned up again. She was still looking for Percy. This time, she made it right through the police cordon and right onto the road. She pawed through the boys, unintentionally tripping one of them up. She was yelling for her Percy to come home right now. The soldiers went for their guns, and for a moment, it looked very much as if Percy's mom was going to buy herself an interference ticket. Then, a cop got an arm lock on her and dragged her away. A small boy sat on a keep Maine tidy barrel and ate a hot dog and watched the cops put Percy's mom in a police cruiser. Percy's mom was the high point of going through Caribou. "What comes after Old Town, Ray?" McVrees asked. "I'm not a walking road map," Garretty said irritably. "Bangor, I guess, then Augusta, then Kittery, and then the state line. About 330 miles from here, give or take. Okay? I'm picked clean." Somebody whistled. 330 miles! "It's unbelievable," Harkness said gloomily. "The whole damn thing is unbelievable," McVrees said. "I wonder where the major is." "He's shacked up in Augusta," Olson said. They all grinned, and Garretty reflected how strange it was about the major, who had gone from God to Mammon in just about 10 hours. 95 left. But that wasn't even the worst anymore. The worst was trying to visualize McVrees buying it, or Baker, or Harkness with his silly book idea. His mind shied away from the thought. Once Caribou was behind them, the road became all but deserted. They walked through a country crossroads with a single light pole rearing high above, spotlighting them and making crisp black shadows as they passed through the glare. Far away, a train whistle hooted. The moon cast a dubious light on the ground fog, leaving it pearly and opalescent in the fields. Garretty took a drink of water. "Warning! Warning number 12. This is your final warning number 12. 12 was a boy named Fenter, who was wearing a souvenir t-shirt which read, "I rode the Washington Cog Railway." Fenter was licking his lips. The word was that his foot had stiffened up on him badly. When he was shot 10 minutes later, Garretty didn't feel much. He was too tired. He walked around Fenter. Looking down, he saw something glittering in Fenter's hand. A St. Christopher's medal. "If I get out of this," McVrees said abruptly, "you know what I'm going to do?" "What?" Baker asked. "Fornicate until my cock turns blue. I've never been so horny in my life as I am this minute, at the 8:15 on May 1st. "You mean it?" Garretty asked. "I do," McVrees assured. "I could even get horny for you, Ray, if you didn't need a shave." Garretty laughed. "Prince Charming, that's who I am," McVrees said. His hand went to the scar on his cheek and touched it. "Now all I need is Sleeping Beauty. I could awake her with a big sloppy soul kiss, and the two of us could ride away into the sunset. At least as far as the nearest Holiday Inn." "Walk?" Olson said listlessly. "Huh?" "Walk into the sunset." "Walk into the sunset, okay," McVrees said. "True love, either way. Do you believe in true love, Hank, dear?" "I believe in a good screw," Olson said, and Art Baker burst out laughing. "I believe in true love," Garretty said, and then felt sorry he had said it. It sounded naive. "You want to know why I don't?" Olson said. He looked up at Garretty and grinned a scary, furtive grin. "Ask Fenter. Ask Zuck. They know." "That's a hell of an attitude," Pearson said. He had come out of the dark from someplace and was not walking with them again. Pearson was limping. Not badly, but he was obviously limping. "No, it's not," McVrees said, and then after a moment he added cryptically, "Nobody loves a debtor." "Edgar Allan Poe did," Baker said. "I did a report on him in school, and it said he had tendencies that were necrophiliac," Garretty said. "Yeah, that's right." "What's that?" Pearson asked. "It means you got an urge to sleep with a dead woman," Baker said. "Or a dead man, if you're a woman." "Or if you're a fruit," McVrees put in. "How the hell did we get on this?" Olson croaked. "Just how do we get on the subject of screwing dead people? It's fucking repulsive." "Why not?" a deep, somber voice said. It was Abraham, number 2. He was tall and disjointed looking. He walked in a perpetual shamble. "I think we all might take a moment or two to stop and think about whatever kind of sex life there may be in the next world." "I get Marilyn Monroe," McVrees said. "You can have Eleanor Roosevelt, Abe, old buddy." Abraham gave him the finger. Up ahead, one of the soldiers droned out a warning. "Just a second now. Just one motherfucking second here." Olson spoke slowly, as if he wrestled with a tremendous problem in expression. "You're all off the subject. All off. The transcendental quality of love. A lecture by the noted philosopher and Ethiopian jug-rammer Henry Olson," McVrees said, "author of A Peach is Not a Peach Without a Pit and other works of—" "Wait!" Olson cried out. His voice was as shrill as broken glass. "You just wait one goddamn second. Love is a put-on. It's nothing. One big, fat El Zilcho. You got it?" No one replied. Garretty looked out ahead of him, where the dark charcoal hills met the star-punched darkness of the sky. He wondered if he couldn't feel the first faint twinges of a charley horse in the arch of his left foot. "I want to sit down," he thought irritably. "Damn it all. I want to sit down." "Love is a fake," Olson was blaring. "There are 3 great truths in the world, and they are a good meal, a good screw, and a good shit. And that's all. And when you end up like Fenter and Zuck, shut up," a bored voice said. And Garretty knew it was Stebbins. But when he looked back, Stebbins was only looking at the road and walking along near the left-hand edge. A jet passed overhead, trailing the sound of its engines behind it, and chalking a feathery line across the night sky. It passed low enough for them to be able to see its running lights, pulsing yellow and green. Baker was whistling again. Garretty let his eyelids drop mostly shut. His feet moved on their own. His half-dozing mind began to slip away from him. Random thoughts began to chase each other lazily across its field. He remembered his mother singing him an Irish lullaby when he was very small. Something about cockles and mussels, alive, alive-o. And her face, so huge and beautiful, like the face of an actress on a movie screen, wanting to kiss her and be in love with her for always. When he grew up, he would marry her. This was replaced by Jan's good-humored Polish face and her dark hair that streamed nearly to her waist. She was wearing a two-piece bathing suit beneath a short beach coat because they were going to Reed Beach. Garretty himself was wearing a ragged pair of denim shorts and his Zoris. Jan was gone. Her face became that of Jimmy Owens, the kid down the block from them. He had been 5 and Jimmy had been 5, and Jimmy's mother had caught them playing doctor's office in the sand pit behind Jimmy's house. They both had boners. That's what they called them. Boners. Jimmy's mother had called his mother, and his mother had come to get him and sat him down in his bedroom and asked him how he would like it if she made him go out and walk down the street with no clothes on. His dozing body contracted with the groveling embarrassment of it, the deep shame. He had cried and begged, not to make him walk down the street with no clothes on, and not to tell his father. 7 years old now. He and Jimmy Owens peering through the dirt-grimed window of the Burrs Building Materials office at the Naked Lady calendars, knowing what they were looking at, but not really knowing, feeling a crawling, shameful, exciting pang of something. There had been one blonde lady with a piece of blue silk draped across her hips, and they had stared at it for a long, long time. They argued about what might have been down there under the cloth. Jimmy said he had seen his mother naked. Jimmy said he knew. Jimmy said it was hairy and cut open. He had refused to believe Jimmy because what Jimmy said was disgusting. Still, he was sure that ladies must be different from men down there, and they had spent a long purple summer dusk discussing it, swatting mosquitoes and watching a scratch baseball game in the lot of the moving van company across the street from Burrs. He could actually feel, in the half-waking dream, the sensation of the hard curb beneath his fanny. The next year he had hit Jimmy Owens in the mouth with the barrel of his Daisy air rifle when they were playing guns, and Jimmy had to have 4 stitches in his upper lip. A year after that they had moved away. He hadn't meant to hit Jimmy in the mouth. It had been an accident. Of that he was quite sure, even though by then he had known that Jimmy was right because he had seen his own mother naked. He had not meant to see her naked. It had been an accident. They were hairy down there, hairy and cut open. Shh. It isn't a tiger, love. It's only your teddy bear, see? Cookies and mussels, alive, alive-o. Mother loves her boy. Shh. Go to sleep. Warning! Warning number 47. An elbow poked him rudely in the ribs. That's you, boy! Rise and shine. McVrees was grinning at him. What time is it? Garretty asked thickly. It's 8:35. But I've been dozing for hours, McVrees said. I know the feeling. Well, it sure seemed that way. It's your mind, McVrees said, using the old escape hatch. Don't you wish your feet could? I use dial, Pearson said, pulling an idiotic face. Don't you wish everyone did? Garretty thought that memories were like a line drawn in the dirt. The further back he went, the scuffier and harder to see that line got, until finally There was nothing but smooth sand and the black hole of nothingness that you came out of. The memories were in a way like the road. Here it was real, and hard, and tangible. But that early road, that 9 a.m. road, was far back and meaningless. They were almost 50 miles into the walk. The word came back that the Major would be by in his Jeep to review them and make a short speech when they actually got to the 50-mile point. Garretty thought that was most probably horse shit. They breasted a long, steep rise, and Garretty was tempted to take his jacket off again. He didn't. He unzipped it, and then walked backwards for a minute. The lights of Caribou twinkled at him, and he thought about Lot's wife, who had looked back and turned into a pillar of salt.
Warning! Warning number 47. Second warning 47.
It took Garretty a moment to realize it was him. His second warning in 10 minutes. He started to feel afraid again. He thought of the unnamed boy who had died because he had slowed down once too often. Was that what he was doing? He looked around. McVries, Harkness, Baker, and Olson were all staring at him. Olson was having a particularly good look. He could make out the intent expression on Olson's face, even in the dark. Olson had outlasted 6. He wanted to make Garretty lucky 7. He wanted Garretty to die. See anything green? Garretty asked irritably. No, Olson said with his eyes sliding away. Of course not. Garretty walked with determination now, his arms swinging aggressively. It was 20 to 9. At 20 to 11, 8 miles down the road, he would be free again. He felt a hysterical urge to proclaim he could do it. They needn't send the word back on him. They weren't going to watch him get a ticket. At least not yet. The ground fog spread across the road in thin ribbons, like smoke. The shapes of the boys moved through it like dark islands, somehow set adrift. At 50 miles into the walk, they passed a small, shut-up garage with a rusted-out gas pump in front. It was little more than an ominous leading shape in the fog. The clear fluorescent light from a telephone booth cast the only glow. The Major didn't come. No one came. The road dipped gently around a curve, and then there was a yellow road sign ahead. The word came back, but before it got to Garretty, he could read the sign for himself. Steep grade. Trucks use low gear. Groans and moans. Somewhere up ahead, Barkovitch called out merrily, "Step into it, brothers! Who wants to race me to the top?" "Shut your goddamn mouth, you little freak!" someone said quietly. "Make me, Dumbo!" Barkovitch shrilled. "Come on up here and make me!" "He's cracking," Baker said. "No," McVries replied. "He's just stretching. Guys like him have an awful lot of stretch." Olson's voice was deadly quiet. "I don't think I can climb that hill. Not at 4 miles an hour." The hill stretched above them. They were almost to it now. With the fog, it was impossible to see the top. For all we know, it just might go up forever. They started up. It wasn't as bad, Garretty discovered. If you stared down at your feet as you walked and leaned forward a little, you stared strictly down at the tiny patch of pavement between your feet, and it gave you the impression that you were walking on level ground. Of course, you couldn't kid yourself that your lungs and the breath in your throat weren't heating up, because they were. Somehow, the word started coming back. Some people still had breath to spare, apparently. The word was that the hill was 1/4 of a mile long. The word was it was 2 miles long. The word was that no walker had ever gotten a ticket on this hill. The word was that 3 boys had gotten tickets here just last year. And after that, word stopped coming back. "I can't do it," Olson was saying monotonously. "I can't do it anymore." His breath was coming in dog-like pants, but he kept on walking and kept on walking. Little grunting noises and soft, plosive breathing became audible. The only other sounds were Olson's chant, the scuff of many feet, and the grinding, ratcheting sound of the half-track's engine as it chugged along beside them. Garretty felt the bewildered fear in his stomach grow. He could actually die here. It wouldn't be hard at all. He had screwed around and gotten 2 warnings on him already. He couldn't be much over the limit right now. All he had to do was slip up his pace a little, and he'd have number 3, final warning. And then...
Warning! Warning number 70.
They're playing your song, Olson, McVrees said between pants. Pick up your feet. I want to see you dance up this hill like Fred Astaire. What do you care? Olson asked fiercely. McVrees didn't answer. Olson found a little more inside himself and managed to pick it up. Garretty wondered morbidly if the little more Olson had found was his last legs. He also wondered about Stebbins back there tailing the group. How are you, Stebbins? Are you getting tired? Up ahead, a boy named Larson, number 60, suddenly sat down on the road. He got a warning. The other boys split and passed around him, like the Red Sea around the children of Israel. I'm just going to rest a while, okay? Larson said with a thrusting, shell-shocked smile. I can't walk anymore right now, okay? His smile stretched wider, and he turned it to the soldier who had jumped down from the half-track with his rifle, unslung, and the stainless steel chronometer in his hand.
Warning 60. Second warning,
the soldier said. Listen, I'll catch up, Larson hastened to assure him. I'm just resting. A guy can't walk all the time, not all the time, can he, fellas? Olson made a little moaning noise as he passed Larson, and he shied away when Larson tried to touch his pants cuffs. Garretty felt his pulse beating warmly in his temples. Larson got his 3rd warning. Now he'll understand, Garretty thought. Now he'll get up and start flogging it. And at the end, Larson did realize. Apparently reality came rushing back in. Hey! Larson said behind them. His voice was high and alarmed. Hey, just a second. Don't do that. I'll get up. I'll get up. Hey, don't! The shot. They walked on up the hill. 93 bottles of beer left on the shelf, McVrees said softly. Garretty made no reply. He stared at his feet and focused all of his concentration on getting to the top without that 3rd warning. It couldn't go on much longer, this monster hill. Surely not. Up ahead, someone uttered a high, gobbling scream, and then their rifles clashed in unison. Barkovitch, Baker said hoarsely. That was Barkovitch, I'm sure it was. Wrong, redneck, Barkovitch yelled out of the darkness. 100% dead wrong. They never did see the boy who had been shot after Larson. He had been part of the vanguard, and he was dragged off the road before they got there. Garretty ventured to look up from the pavement and was immediately sorry. He could see the top of the hill, just barely. They still had the length of a football field to go. It looked like 100 miles. No one had said anything else. Each of them had retreated into his own private world of pain and effort. Seconds seemed to telescope into hours. Near the top of the hill, a rutted dirt road branched off the main drag, and a farmer and his family stood there. They watched the walkers go past. An old man with a deeply seamed brow, a hatchet-faced woman in a bulky cloth coat, 3 teenage children who all looked half-witted. All he needs is a pitchfork, McVrees told Garretty breathlessly. Sweat was streaming down McVrees' face. And Grant Wood to paint him. Someone called out, "Hiya, Daddy!" The farmer and the farmer's wife and the farmer's children said nothing. The cheese stands alone, Garretty thought crazily. Hi-ho the dairy-o, the cheese stands alone. The farmer and his family did not smile. They did not frown. They held no signs. They did not wave. They watched. Garretty was reminded of the Western movies he had seen on all the Saturday afternoons of his youth, where the hero was left to die in the deserts, and the buzzards came and circled overhead. They were left behind, and Garretty was glad. He supposed the farmer and his wife and the 3 half-witted children would be next out there around 9 o'clock next May 1st, and the next, and the next. How many boys had they seen shot? A dozen? 2? Garretty didn't like to think of that. He took a pull at his canteen, sloshed the water around in his mouth, trying to cut through the caked saliva. He spit the mouthful out. The hill went on. Up ahead, Tolan fainted and was shot after the soldier beside him had warned his unconscious body 3 times. It seemed to Garretty that they had been climbing the hill for at least a month now. Yes, it had been a month at least, and that was a conservative estimate, because they had been walking for just over 3 years. He giggled a little, took another mouthful of water, sloshed it around in his mouth, and then swallowed it. No cramps. A cramp would finish him now. But it could happen. It could happen because someone had dipped his shoes in liquid lead when he wasn't looking. 9 gone. And a third of them had gotten it right here on this hill. The major had told Olson to give them hell. And if this wasn't hell, it was a pretty good approximation. A pretty good... Oh boy. Garretty was suddenly aware that he felt quite giddy, as if he might faint himself. He brought one hand up and slapped himself across the face, backward and forward, hard. "Are you all right?" McVrees asked. "Feel faint." "Pour your..." Quick whistling breaths. "Canteen over your head." Garretty did it. "I christen thee Raymond Davis Garretty." Pax Obasum. The water was very cold. He stopped feeling faint. Some of the water trickled down inside his shirt in freezing cold rivulets. "Canteen 47!" he shouted. The effort of the shout left him feeling drained all over again. He wished he had waited a while. One of the soldiers jog-trotted over to him and handed him a fresh canteen. Garretty could feel the soldier's expressionless marble eyes sizing him up. "Get away," he said rudely, taking the canteen. "You get paid to shoot me, not look at me." The soldier went away with no change of expression. Garretty made himself walk a little faster. They kept climbing, and no one else got it, and then they were at the top. It was 9 o'clock. They had been on the road 12 hours. And that didn't mean anything. The only thing that mattered was the cool breeze blowing over the top of the hill, and the sound of a bird, and the feel of his damp shirt against his skin, and the memories in his head. Those things mattered. And Garretty clung to them with desperate awareness. They were his things, and he still had them. "Pete?" "Yeah. Man, I'm glad to be alive." McVrees didn't answer. They were on the downslope now. Walking was easy. "I'm going to try hard to stay alive," Garretty said, almost apologetically. The road curved gently downward. They were still 115 miles from Old Town, and the comparative levelness of the turnpike. "That's the idea, isn't it?" McVrees asked finally. His voice sounded cracked and cobwebby, as if it had issued from a dusty cellar. Neither of them said anything for a while. No one was talking. Baker ambled steadily along. He hadn't drawn a warning yet, with his hands still in his pockets, his head nodding slightly with the flat-footed rhythm of his walk. Olson had gone back to the Hail Mary, full of grace. His face was a white splotch in the darkness. Harkness was eating. "Hey, Garretty," McVrees said. "I'm here." "You ever see the end of a long walk?" "No. You?" Hell no. I just thought, you being close to it and all. My father hated them. He took me to one as a, object lesson. But that was the only time I saw. Garretty jumped at the sound of that voice. It was Stebbins! He had pulled almost even with them, his head still bent forward, his blonde hair flapping around his ears like a sickly halo. What was it like? McVrees asked. His voice was younger somehow. You don't want to know, Stebbins said. I asked, didn't I? Stebbins made no reply. Garretty's curiosity about him was stronger than ever. Stebbins hadn't folded up. He showed no signs of folding up. He went on without complaint and hadn't been warned since the starting line. Yeah, what's it like? He heard himself asking. I saw the end 4 years ago, Stebbins said. I was 13. It ended about 16 miles over the New Hampshire border. They had the National Guard out and 16 federal squads to augment the state police. They had to. The people were packed 60 deep on both sides of the road for 50 miles. Over 20 people were trampled to death before it was all over. It happened because people were trying to move with the walkers, trying to see the end of it. I had a front row seat. My dad got it for me. What does your dad do? Garretty asked. He's in the squads, and he had it figured out just right. I didn't even have to move. The walk ended practically in front of me. What happened? Olson asked softly. I could hear them coming before I could see them. We all could. It was one big sound wave getting closer and closer. And it was still an hour before they got close enough to see. They weren't looking at the crowd, either of the two that were left. It was like they didn't even know the crowd was there. What they were looking at was the road. They were hobbling along, both of them, like they had been crucified and then taken down and made to walk with the nails still through their feet. They were all listening to Stebbins now. A horrified silence had fallen like a rubber sheet. The crowd was yelling at them, almost as if they could still hear. Some were yelling one guy's name, and some were yelling the other guy's. But the only thing that really came through this was go, go, go chant. I was getting shoved around like a beanbag. The guy next to me either pissed himself or jacked off in his pants. He couldn't tell which. They walked right past me. One of them was a big blonde with his shirt open. One of his shoe soles had come unglued or unstitched or whatever, and it was flapping. The other guy wasn't even wearing his shoes anymore. He was in his stocking feet. His socks ended at his ankles. The rest of them, why, he'd just walked them away, hadn't he? His feet were purple. You could see the broken blood vessels in his feet. I don't think he really felt it anymore. Maybe they were able to do something with his feet later. I don't know. Maybe they were. Stop! For God's sake, stop it. It was McVrees. He sounded dazed and sick. You wanted to know, Stebbins said. Didn't you say that? No answer. The half-track whined and clattered and spurted along the shoulder. And somewhere farther up ahead, someone drew a warning. It was the big blonde that lost. I saw it all. They were just a little past me. He threw both of his arms up, like he was Superman. But instead of flying, he just fell flat on his face, and they gave him his ticket after 30 seconds, because he was walking with 3. They were both walking with 3. Then the crowd started to cheer. They cheered and cheered, and then they could see the kid that won was trying to say something, so they shut up. He had fallen on his knees, like he was going to pray, only he was just crying. And then he crawled over to the other boy and put his face in that big blonde kid's shirt. And then he started to say whatever it was he had to say, but we couldn't hear it. He was talking into the dead kid's shirt. He was telling the dead kid. Then the soldiers rushed out and told him he had won the prize and asked him how he wanted to start. "What did he say?" Garretty asked. It seemed to him that with the question, he had just laid his whole life on the line. He didn't say anything to them, not then, Stebbins said. He was talking to the dead kid. He was telling the dead kid something, but we couldn't hear it. "What happened then?" Pearson asked. "I don't remember," Stebbins said remotely. No one said anything. Garretty felt a panicked, trapped sensation, as if someone had stuffed him into an underground pipe that was too small to get out of. Up ahead, a third warning was given out, and a boy made a croaking, desperate sound, like a dying crow. "Please, God, don't let them shoot anyone now," Garretty thought. "I'll go crazy if I hear the guns now. Please, God, please." A few minutes later, the guns rammed their steel death sound into the night. This time it was a short boy in a flapping red and white football jersey. For a moment, Garretty thought Percy's mom would not have to wonder or worry anymore, but it wasn't Percy. It was a boy named Quincy or Quentin, or something like that. Garretty didn't go crazy. He turned around to say angry words at Stebbins, to ask him perhaps how it felt to inflict the boy's last minutes with such a horror. But Stebbins had dropped back to his usual position, and Garretty was alone again. They walked on, the 90 of them. Oh my God. That was Chapter 4 of The Long Walk, the second short story contained within the pages of the Bachman books. And a lot just happened. We started with 95, we're down to 90. We lost Fenter, Larson, and Toland, and 2 other boys of unknown name. They thought one was Barkovitch, but of fucking course, fucking Barkovitch has to bark orders from the front of the line. Blah, 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 my name's Barkovitch, blah. Fuck Barkovitch. Other good news is Stebbins decided to be social. And Stebbins immediately reminds me of Matthew McConaughey, so from now on we're just going to call him Stebbins McConaughey. Because he told his story, and it calmed everybody down. It was just a super chill story. So Stebbins McConaughey is now part of the group. I don't see him and Olsen getting along very well, but that's just me. And I think I have a confession to make. I read a lot of stories, but I don't read all the way to the end if I really, really like them. Like with Rage, I never read through it until I read it out loud. The Long Walk, I think I've read half of it because I didn't want to know how it ended. I didn't want to read those boys getting their ticket. I just didn't. And maybe that's cowardice, to not want to read the end of a book because it's a painful memory, and you just read up to the good part, and then when everything starts going bad, you just close it. And anytime you want, you can open it up and read that good part, but as soon as things start getting scary, you can just close it back up. So maybe that's a flaw in Doctor Business. But in saying that, I'll be very excited to see how this all works, and we will do that next time, because this has been Doctorpiece Theater. My name is Dr. Dennis Business, and as always, my friends.